All right, so going for a walk. It's pretty toasty. I wanted to share an experience I had with a patient. We had a conversation regarding his wife, and she's like two steps below a Karen, a full-blown Karen. She's a negative Nancy, and we'll call her that. So she doesn't believe in anything natural, doesn't believe in, I guess, anything beyond a pharmaceutical is the elixir of life, which, as we all know, is not necessarily the case. So we were talking about having an appointment with her, and I often will joke around with patients, usually the wives. I'll let them know, like, hey, we're happy to help whoever we need to help, but please don't send your husband in. Because typically the husbands are less than ideal. Men will complain about a stone in their shoe and won't take their shoe off to get the stone out. They'll just complain about it. Not really ideal. Let's just say that. Anyway, this is his wife. So we're talking. He's like, man, I wish I could get her in here, but she's just. I'm like, well, why don't we do emotion work on her and emotion work on you and see where that goes? He's like, well, she won't come in. I don't know how I'm going to do that. I told him, all we need to do is get permission to work on her, and we can do a lot of that simply through you with intention, just like I do when we remote test people. You could be in a different state or a different country, and we can work on you. It's no different, but ethically, let's get her permission first. I'm gonna let this car go by here. And so we talked about that, and how does that work? What is this all about? And well, how does it work will be a different video altogether probably, but the other half of that question is, how is working on him going to change her attitude, her demeanor, her mood? So I gave him the example, used the tuning forks. Tuning forks are a great example of how everything in creation operates. Everything's vibrating all the time. It's a basic law of physics. Everything is in motion all the time. It never stops. And it's important to remember these vibrations don't stop. They just change. They alter. So if you've got two tuning forks of the same frequency, you activate one, the other one will activate. That's really not even true. Because they're already vibrating, All you're doing is amplifying that vibration to the point that you can hear it. It's kind of like why dogs can hear certain frequencies that people can. It's already there, it's just not noticeable. The same deal with the tuning fork, and it's the same deal with you and I. You can walk into a room with someone that you have contention with, and you'll feel the tension. It's a vibration. They can feel it, and a lot of other people in that room can feel it as well. You just walk into that room and you're like, oof, what is going on here? So what we're gonna do in his case is take a look. We're gonna ask his body, what is it in him that makes her respond the way she does to his requests, to his opinions, to whatever. And simply by doing that, we're not pointing the fingers at the wife, because at least half of this issue is his own doing, subconsciously and consciously. We all know we push our spouse's buttons, right? But then there's other times we don't know why they're grumpy and crabby or short with us. It's because that vibration's still there. They had an experience one time that created that emotional state, which is a response to something, and it stayed put. How do we get rid of that? We get rid of it by acknowledging it and releasing it. So when we have couples come in, I won't go through and blame one person or the other. We're not going to sit there and point fingers. I'm not going to ask the body, why are you grumpy when he asks you to do something? Or how come you never want to be intimate with him? That's not really how you muscle test this. My phone's overheating. That's how hot it is out here. So we're not going to point the fingers. We want to ask and figure out how you can change yourself. Because when you change yourself, you change everything else around you, including your partner and your spouse. Think about it. They've done experiments on this. They've shot electrons through a plate. Those electrons exposed a film like a radiograph or an X-ray. You could see the scatter from those electrons when they shot those through there. There's two slits, and you would think when you shoot electrons through a piece of film that has two slits in it, you'll see an outline of a slit and an outline of a slit. That makes sense. And that's exactly what the experimenters saw when they left the room and did this experiment. What they didn't expect to see was when one of them stayed in the room and observed it, it changed. When experimenter number 1 was in the room, maybe let's say one slit showed electrons passing through and the other slit did not. When somebody else was in the room, they may have shown just scatter in both. When somebody else was in the room, there were none. It was all around the film instead of through the film. How is that even possible? When you look through an electron microscope at an electron, what they've noticed is one person will see let's call it a blue streak. Other person could see a green ball, green blob. The third person might see a red dot. How is that possible? It's the same electron. Wrong. It's the same electron in theory, but your perception affects the electron and how it presents. So if you extrapolate that out, your perception, which is created by your experiences in the past, that's how you're predicting your future. If X happens, this is what happens. So you're programmed to think this already. So that perception you have is telling matter how to construct. Everything is made of matter, right? Electrons, protons, neutrons, and whatnot. So if your perception and opinions and experiences affect the construction of matter, electrons, it makes sense to extrapolate out to say that they affect the construct of matter around you, the life around you, the world around you, the reality. And as it turns out, it does. So if we can release, remove, or reprogram things from the body and from the mind, you can set up a new future. You can set up a new relationship. You can set up a new reality, more or less. That's what manifestation's based on. And a lot of it's based on, well, it's communicated in terms of wishful thinking, positive thinking. It's not that as much as it is you're changing matter with your thinking and your perception. Emotions and thoughts go back and forth. Emotions create thoughts. Thoughts can create emotions. Those two things create your perception, what you expect. And what you expect a lot of times is going to be what you get. It's rare that you're pleasantly surprised by something. Usually it's, I knew she was going to respond that way. That's why I don't even bother asking. Okay, so what does Joe Dispenza say? Your personality creates your personal reality. That is built on what we just talked about. So what you guys can do at home is, instead of trying to be resentful or trying to change somebody, try to change yourself. Manipulate what you experience by manipulating the way you view things. So what I find very helpful is looking at each event that I have in my life as a blessing, and just knowing that it's going to work out for me. Like, for whatever reason, God just always moves things and bends things and twists things to align up for my greater good. You need to do the same thing. So when you run into traffic on the way to work and you're going to be late, it's stressful, but God just saved you from an accident. If your wife's a little irritable, think back into yourself, like, is there something that may be off with you? Think back through the things that you're grateful for your wife for. If it's your husband, are you nagging him all the time? Maybe be grateful for the things he does do. Maybe acknowledge that as well. Husbands, for your wives, if you don't want her to nag you, try to do things to offset the nagging, let's say. I know a lot of guys talk about this, but there are things in general that as husbands we could do better, right? We could go that little extra mile, and try not to think about doing it like, hey, this will stop her from complaining or nagging. Do it out of the goodness of your heart, knowing that what goes around comes around, and that God's going to bless this action. You can even pray over it, like, Lord, bless this gesture for me. Help this facilitate peace in our marriage, and work on things that way. Hands down, the biggest changes I've seen in my own marriage and patients with their relationships is when you work on yourself. It's not so much them, it's not your employer, it's not your coworkers, it's you. Dig in deep and look at what you need to address and what you need to change, things that you need to be grateful for. Write down an appreciation list of just things that you're grateful for. Write down a list of revisions, things that maybe you didn't think went your way, but flip it around and write down how maybe that did work out to be my benefit. And it doesn't have to make sense right away, but it's repetition. If you've repeatedly told yourself on this side that X, Y, and Z are bad and it's always going to be that way, that's the outcome. But if you can look at it and revise it from the present, go back into the past, be like, yeah, that argument, that did not go well. I knew that was going to go sideways and I did it anyway. Let's revise that. Like, she brought this up and I did not comment on that. I did not say that dress made her look bad. I did not talk about her sister or her mother or whatever else it might be. Ladies, you can do the same thing. Go back, revise it, just write it down. It sounds hokey, but intention is vibration. Vibration affects reality. Go back through and write that down and then have an outcome associated with it. I did not say she looked fat in that dress, and we got along great that night and our marriage is better than ever. I did not nag him after a long day of work to put the dishes away for the 4th time. He's tired. He did it on his own, and our marriage is better than ever. Period. You can go through and revise things like that, and believe it or not, that actually helps as well. There's a whole lot of energetic things you can do for yourself and your relationships if you just put a little bit of time into it. Hope that helps. Bye.